at least 60 locations nationwide. That's an annual salary of $41,600 a year for a 5-day work week with no days off. Some restaurant owners warn there will be higher prices and job cuts. The overall minimum wage in California is $16 an hour, behind only Washington State and Washington, D.C. for highest in the country. A law signed by Governor Gavin Newsom in September also establishes a fast food council with representatives for workers and employers to work out future pay increases and working condition standards. Chris Foster, Fox News.
At the box office this weekend, Godzilla Kong the New Empire stomped the competition, earning $80 million its opening weekend. Last week's number one, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, was second with $15.7 million. Dune Part 2 in third with $11.1 million. I'm Lisa Lacera. This is Fox News.
Hello, everyone. This is Lawrence Sutton. We got an echo in here. Can you do something about the echo? Can you hear the echo?
Yeah, it's echoing real bad. There it goes.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. So, anyway, let's start over again. This is Lawrence Sutton. We got Chris Morris, and it's Tennessee Legislative Report. And some of our legislators have been up to some good, but some of them have been up to some no good, Chris.
And some of them we talk good about on here have been up to no good.
Yes, they have.
I want you to know, did you realize that Donald Trump withdrew from the Republican nominee today on the Republican ticket?
He did.
He sure did. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't. I guess this is news.
By the way, it's April Fool's.
I get it. I knew that was coming.
There was a thing that come across my phone earlier today that Donald Trump is withdrawing as a Republican nominee for the Republican Party.
And you opened it and looked at it?
And I opened it and I got to reading it. It was on Newsweek.
You know what?
It was April Fool's.
April Fool's, right. Well, I got news for you. Today, though, is a holiday for the atheist.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Well, let's
you don't get it, do you? April 1st.
April 1st, Fools.
April Fool's Day for our atheist friends.
Yeah. Something I want to talk to you about. There's a lot of things going on, and I'm trying to figure out. I'm in the wrong one. The text both you and I receive all the time, and from different folks talking about it. But this is something that should infuriate everybody, and I said that I was going to talk about it today, and let's spend 5 minutes on this because
Okay.
I think it's worth it, Lawrence. And this was released from the White House on March 29th, 2024, a proclamation on Transgender Day of Visibility 2024. This came directly from the White House. A lot of people kind of thought it was a joke, but it's not. And, you know, our president, Joe Biden, is pure evil. I don't care how you look at it, but he said, on Transgender Day of Visibility, we honor the extraordinary courage and contributions of transgender Americans and reaffirm our nation's commitment to forming a more perfect union. Trying to steal one of Abraham Lincoln's quotes, where all people are created equal and treated equally throughout their lives. I am proud that my administration has stood for justice from the start, working to ensure that the LBG, the alphabet people, I'm not going to go any further with that, community can live openly and in safety with dignity and respect. I'm proud to have appointed transgender leaders to my administration and to have ended the ban on transgender Americans serving openly in our military. I am proud to have signed historic executive orders that strengthen civil rights protections in housing, employment, healthcare, education, and the justice system, and more. I'm proud to have signed the Respect for Marriage Act into law, ensuring that every American can marry the person they love. This just goes on and on and on about transgender, homosexuality. People, I know for the most part our listeners are Christians. This is an abomination to God, and to make this the same day as Easter.
I actually, I'm going to tell you something with, I actually look at it not as Easter as resurrection.
It's resurrection. And I agree.
I mean, Easter really, we could get down a rabbit hole right there because that was actually named after the goddess Ishtar.
Yeah.
Is where we get the word Easter from.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, it's a rabbit hole that I'm really not prepared to talk about. But go look up Ishtar, and you'll actually see the similarities with the Easter bunny and the eggs and things like that with that goddess Ishtar.
Well, why I stopped, because I don't want to keep reading this evil. It's pure evil, but everybody needs to read the whole chapter of Romans 1. But really hone in on the verses in Romans chapter 1, 16 through 32.
Absolutely.
And it'll tell you everything that you need to know.
So here's the issue. I would say if when we were going to school and things like that, you might have made little snide comments or little jokes against people that were of that persuasion. But I do not see and have not ever seen, nor have I personally ever discriminated against somebody because of what they want to do or what they want to be. I'm all about freedom, okay? Here's the problem, Chris, is that they're making themselves a special class of people. Okay, it would be like, I'm going to tell you something. I'm sorry, this may offend some people, but it would be like us saying, well, we're going to have a National Straight White Man's Day. Let's put it in that perspective, and let's see how pissed off people would get if we were going to do that. If you took what Joe Biden wrote, and make no mistake, Christianity right now is more persecuted than any of the homosexuals or the transsexuals or anything like that. They're under way much more attack. We had a church here in Tennessee on Sunday where they pulled up a great big cart trailer
of Bibles
in
Mount
Juliet at Greg Locke's church and set it on fire. I will tell you this. Hear me out, people. The transsexual, the homosexual, they're under no persecution. The persecution is coming from the Christians. And just because they're not cutting our heads off, but that's about the only thing they haven't started doing yet. They're arresting people. We have a gentleman that was praying outside of abortion clinic
from Hickman County
that's still facing 11 years in prison for praying. Where's our First Amendment rights? And by the way, nobody's took me up on this. I'll give you $100 if you can show me in the Constitution where it says separation of church and state. What it really was supposed to do was separating the states, and notice I said state, not even the federal government, okay? It was supposed to keep a state or the federal government from having a national, not religion, okay, because this country, like it or not, was founded on Christianity principles
and freedom
of religion, okay? But it was to keep the state or the federal government from saying we have a national church like we had the National Church of England,
right,
which is why people fled
England.
And that's the reason we came over here, was to have freedom of religion. So I tell you that to say all of this. How is it? I want somebody to tell me, how is it persecution to have a prayer in school? Can you please explain to me how that is persecuting and putting somebody in danger to have prayer in school? I saw this bumper sticker, Chris, and I'm going to tell you something. Yeah, I'm getting pissed because we have lost who we are as a country, and we have lost who we are as a people. But I saw a bumper sticker, and it said, God why are you allowing these mass school shootings? And God, answer, because I'm not allowed in school.
Oh. The answer was because God is no longer allowed in school.
That's right. So I want I want people to, here's another one. Show me a school shooting that happened before 1963, before we took prayer out of schools. Show me a mass shooting that happened in a school before 1963. And I got news for you. There was a lot of guns in school during those periods of time. Matter of fact, there was lots of guns in school up until the 90s.
In the 80s.
Even the 90s.
You know, when I was at Giles County High School, we wasn't allowed to bring them into school, but we were allowed to have them in our trucks.
Right.
Hanging on a gun rack.
Right.
Call us a true redneck.
You know what, though? Think about this. What do you think would happen if you had children like us who were trained, our parents trained us with our firearms, taught us how to use our firearms? How do you think that would work even today with a mass shooter if he knew if he pulled up that there might be some good old boys with guns in the back of their truck that might get out of their vehicle or get out of the classroom and get to their vehicle?
They would stop it. You wouldn't hear about all this.
I think
you want to be very honest, because these idiots, these evil people, reprobate mind people, even tried it in churches. Well, churches stepped up and went to church security.
Right.
Now they carry.
Right.
Look at that last shooting in a church in Texas, how quick they took that assailant
Pretty
out.
darn quick, didn't
Pretty
they?
quick.
And I'm going to tell you something. If you're a church that bans guns, shame on you.
Yeah, shame on you.
And if you're a church that bans guns,
if you're a business that bans guns,
shame on you.
Shame on you.
I'm not going in your business. I can't tell you. There's some couple of businesses here in town that that have pretty good reputations, you know, for having good products, and
but you can't carry a gun.
They have no gun signs on the doors. So I've never been in there.
Here in Lawrence County.
Here in Lawrence County. And I refuse to go in there, and I will not go in there. So, Chris, Isaiah talks about in the end times that good will be called evil and evil will be called good. And we're sitting in it right now. I tell you, Bill, I want to talk about right now, and I'm just going to tell you, I'm very disappointed in our legislators. And I'm going to concentrate on the Senate bill because the House bill, it wasn't turned down.
Now, you're talking about Senate Bill 574, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I am.
Let's go with it. I'm ready to run with it.
Yeah, let's go. I'm getting off my soapbox.
We're getting over to this bill. I am very, very disappointed. I know that... Lawrence, since we've been talking, I've had several little things to come in, and I'm trying to get back over here to this.
Well, while you're looking it up,
let me say, because I took a picture and sent to you yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Here I'm looking at a picture, folks. There are 7 senators who believe that government has power to deem you the listeners, you the people, non-essential. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to say this right on the front end, and a lot of people remember the negative 6-letter word COVID. We had a governor, and still got that same governor, Bill Lee, who were saying this business is essential, this business is non-essential. Case in point, liquor stores were essential.
right.
They were essential.
That's right.
But to go get your hair cut was non-essential.
That's right. What did it do to your business, Chris?
It devastated it.
Did they try to shut you guys down?
Well, they said the health department, nobody came around. I would love for somebody to come around. My mother has been owns her own beauty shop and has for 52 plus years. And she called me and said, well, the governor said we got to close. I said, keep it open. Well, if the I said, let the health inspector come.
Right.
Let them come, because they cannot stop your ability to produce an income. That's what people don't understand. And if a governor tries, in the great state of Tennessee, Bill Lee could had his rear end suit off.
Well, here's the other thing too, Chris. We have a very, very, very good district attorney.
That's true.
That Brent Cooper, that would not have prosecuted it. I'm going to tell you right now, that man would not have prosecuted it.
And that's what he told you.
Yep.
That's what he's told me. This is the type of stuff, this is a socialist form of government. People don't understand how your rights have been literally chipped away, little by little by little, till you really virtually are becoming a socialist society. Well, and you're becoming recipients of the darn government. We want less government in our life, not more. But let's go back to this bill real quick.
Yeah, I want people to understand.
I want to call
bill.
out the 7 senators.
Well, before we call out the 7 senators that had voted against this, let's explain to the people what really the non-essential meant and what it means.
Okay.
As
fair.
As far as why we're against this. I don't think we've given the people a true understanding why we're really against this. So I will tell you this. You talked about, being the non-essential, Chris, but it also has something to do with, and what I've been told by one of the senators that I contacted, is that they were looking at it as a use for a state of emergency. Okay? And I will tell you this. On the state of emergency, I disagree. And what they mean by state of emergency, even, they're talking about natural disasters even, Chris. Did Governor Lee use this during the C word? Because I don't want to say it too much because YouTube's liable to yank us. Did he use, was the C word, was that a national disaster? No.
No. Heavens no.
But he took and used this.
He did.
So all we're doing is saying, look, we're not going to close a business or tell people how they can come and go based upon if they are essential or not. You know what it reeks of? I'm going to tell you what it reeks of. It reeks of what Canada is starting to do with their citizens. And I'm sure you know all about this, but they're deeming a lot of their citizens as being non-essential. And it's mainly their older citizens. So what are they doing? They're trying to talk them in to offing themselves and having assisted suicide.
Assisted suicides, yes.
So now you're saying, oh, well, that's extreme, Lawrence. That's extreme. No, this is how these things start, is when you do these things. And here's they're coming out and their thought process is this. I'm just letting you know what their thought process is they want to have the governor to be able to manage our public safety and for an emergency crisis. So I will tell you, this is how I answered it, Chris. I answered it this way. I said, I understand what you're saying. And they even used earthquakes, okay? And they probably used earthquakes because they probably heard mine in your episode that we did on Friday a couple of weeks ago talking about these eclipses and how we've had eclipses before when the New Madrid fault line went off. So I guess he was trying to, say, hone in on this. And I said, look, here's the problem. I said, unfortunately, the chances of a misuse, in my opinion, is far, far greater than emergency benefits. And here's what I meant by that, is he was trying to use that as an excuse. Well, what happens if we have a natural disaster and a tornado? What happens if we have an earthquake?
An ice storm.
And my whole thing is like, you know what? We are free citizens of this state, and I do not want to have somebody with that much power to deem on a political issue if somebody's essential or not. And by gosh, if you don't think that that's not being done, look at what's happening to President Trump right now. If you don't think things like this are being done, where they're taking these little arcane laws and using it against people, they will use any kind of law they can and weaponize it.
Well, case in point, you were talking about the abortion clinic.
Yeah.
And what happened to those 11 people who were arrested at the abortion clinic here in Tennessee back in 21? Biden and his goons and the DOJ picked up and used the FACE Act that was passed under the Barack Obama. No, it was
Clinton.
passed under Clinton.
Is that passed under
Under
Clinton?
the Clinton administration, and weaponized that FACE Act to arrest people against their First Amendment right.
Right.
Okay? So therefore, we have this big problem where don't you think something that you think is small always won't affect me? It will.
It will.
Ask those 11 people. Ask everybody who was there or around D.C. whose phone pinged around the D.C. or the Capitol or the White House on January the 6th. They're coming after you. They just arrested a guy who plays roles on whatever.
Yeah.
One of the shows that comes on, NCIS is what it is. And they just arrested him last week for January the 6th. They're still getting people. So don't think for a minute, folks, you're asleep at the wheel. Don't think for a minute that you think you got a constitution. You better be standing up for your constitution now and your God more than you ever have in your life.
So you know what? I laugh my butt off when they say, "Oh, that was an insurrection." It was an insurrection. I have never seen an insurrection that did not involve some form of weapons or guns. I've never seen that. And these people had no really weapons per se, no guns. I mean, they might have had
a stick,
or pepper spray.
Yeah.
You know. But I'm going to tell you something. I mean, that's the reason I don't go to Washington, D.C. Do you think I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. without a gun? You have lost your cotton-picking mind if you think I would do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm not ever going to go to Washington, D.C.
Well, circling back to this bill, and I think it's very important, this passed the House. Okay?
Yeah.
And it was carried by Monty Fritz, great legislator in the House. And in the House Public Service Committee, it was a voice vote. The ayes prevailed. It goes to the Senate. It goes to the Senate State and Local Government Committee. In the Senate, it was carried by Mark Pody out of Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
And it failed. It failed in the Senate, State, and Local Committee. And let me tell you how it failed. You had 2 Republican senators that voted in favor of this, and that was Mark Pody, who sponsored the bill and sits on that committee, and Adam Lowe.
Adam Lowe, I'll be darned. That surprises me.
That surprises me a little bit, too. But he did. He did the right thing. So kudos.
Well, I bet you he had some people that knew about this bill that were probably on him. Because I'm going to tell you something. I didn't know anything about this bill. Shame on me, I guess. But, I mean, do you know how many bills I've fought already this year?
There's too many bills, and that's another thing that we can talk about in another show.
Yeah.
Is, these legislators being able to, in the House alone, to introduce 15 new bills, 15 times 99 is 1485. Man, that's way too much.
But there's a lot more than that, even, because you have someone
we
like...
got those Cameron Sextons and William Lamberth and Jeremy Faison.
They're carrying like 250.
I think Lamberth is carrying 144.
144. The other one's carrying 39. The other one's carrying 42. I mean, you're
Faison's carrying 39.
Yeah. So I mean, you got...
That's way too many. You can't get work. We're convoluting everything. We're having a bill for a bill and a bill.
And it's done on purpose.
And it's done on purpose, okay? But let's really hone in on this. On this committee, there are a total of 9 people on the committee. Only 2 voted for your constitutional right.
So you know that same committee is the one that would not let the state sovereignty bill go through.
That's right. This is the same committee.
It's the same committee.
So hear ye, hear ye. I'm going to call you out. If you don't like it, you get mad, you got the same pants to get glad in.
Or what about not get mad? What about do what's right?
Well, do what's right. But I know we're going to make some of our friends mad.
It's okay.
But that's okay.
I got to tell the truth.
Here's what gets me. You got 2 Democrats that are on that committee, and that's Jeff Yarber. And they're both State Senator Jeff Yarber and State Senator Sarah Kyle. They're automatically going to be no's. We knew where they stood.
Right.
But we had 2 senators present not voting. We didn't send y'all up there to sit on your do-nothing.
Who did that?
Elbows a do less. As Senator Ed Jackson and Ken Yeager.
Okay.
So... by them present and not voting,
it's
that's
same as
to me
no.
is a no.
Same as a no.
So shame on you 2. But here's forget about the Democrats. We got Richard Briggs over in Knoxville. He ain't worth a flip anyway. I wish somebody'd primary him. But we got Paige Wally, y'all's own senator.
Yep.
Voted no. Shame on you, Paige. If you got a problem with it, call me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell you.
And then we got John Stevens. That's a trans Republican. That you can't get that dude over in West Tennessee to do the right thing for nothing. And he's an attorney. And here's the thing I've got. We got too many people up there representing us who have a law degree. It's sort of like a fox guarding the hen house.
You know, not only is it like a fox guarding a hen house, but I'm going to tell you, here's the funny thing about these attorneys. And I'd love to get an attorney on here to verify it, but I've had too many attorneys tell me this.
Let's get John Stevens on here. You welcome to come.
He wouldn't come. He definitely wouldn't come.
I think Dave Vance and Richard Archie and several of them like that have grilled him.
Well, here's the thing.
They need to primary him.
Yeah, I agree with you. And here's the thing, though. With these attorneys, they're not taught the Constitution anymore.
That's right.
They're not being taught the Constitution.
But he's an older attorney. He's not.
They weren't even teaching.
I mean,
he's my age probably. He's probably early 50s. I mean, I guarantee he probably wasn't even taught the Constitution. I mean, I'm not giving him an excuse, and I tell everybody that'll listen to me, the best education you can give yourself is self-education, not the education that you're going to 4 walls and somebody's taking a shovel and it's shoving it down your throat, but it's education that you go out and try to get for yourself. But, Chris, I'm totally disappointed in this. That here's the thing. These, and the Democrats especially I'm talking to, they want to do everything to be as fair as possible. Am I correct? They say, well, we're only wanting to be fair.
We're wanting to be fair. Equitable.
Okay.
Reasonable.
But when you have a bill like this that comes up to saying that everybody is equal and everybody is essential, and then you vote against that, I mean, you're just voting for Democratic. You're voting for communist ideas. Okay? And there's really not much difference between a socialist and a communist except for this. A socialist, they do not have the backbone to back up their beliefs. Where communists, will come in and they'll just kill you. I mean, that's what they've done. They did it with Russia. They did it with China. They did it in Germany. They did it in Cambodia. I'm sorry if you think, oh, well, you know, Germany was a fascist. Same difference, okay? It's people that are trying to take away your rights of who you are, and they're going against what the Bible says.
Don't you love it when everybody says, well, this is a democracy?
Oh, I can't stand it because it is a republic.
It's a constitutional republic.
That's right.
It's not a democracy.
If you want a democracy, go move to India. That's a true democracy right there.
Go move to Germany.
Yeah.
Go move to Canada.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure Justin Trudeau would love to have some of our people here. But I'm going to tell you, I mean, don't you find that ironic, though, Chris? Am I making my point clear here that the people that keep saying we want to be fair and equitable to everybody are the first ones that want to make you non-essential and take away, and they decide who's essential or not.
It's not their role. And hear me, every one of you darn Republicans that voted this down. It's not your role or the state of Tennessee's role or the federal government's role to decide what's essential and non-essential.
That's
period. Right. End of discussion. I loved what you sent to Paige Wally out of the King James, 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3. For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as they travel upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape.
That's right.
That's perfect.
Yep.
That one verse out of the Bible, and you hit the nail on the head.
And I'll just tell you where I'm going with this, because I will tell you I am very concerned with how things are going in America, because I really see, and I'm a history guy, but what I had said earlier, what happened in Germany, what happened in Russia, what happened in China, what happened in Cambodia, etc. I mean, I could name 10 countries that have gone and made citizens second class. Okay, they went and made different citizens second class who the people in power disagreed with, and then they killed them.
That's right.
They took their weapons. First thing they did.
That's the first thing they did.
First thing they did is they took the weapons. Then they made them non-essential, or they demonized them. Okay. Then they just, well, we've already gone this far. We just might as well kill them and get rid of them. So when you have a government that gets to decide these things, they're taking away our freedoms and they're selling us an idea that it's for our own good. I'm just telling you. And you said it best, Chris. This is not how our Constitution was set up. It was set up as a republic. It was not set up as a democracy. And I tell you, I'm having a tough time talking about this because it disappoints me so bad. You know what would happen. I mean, yeah, I agree with what that was said. You know that.
Well, there's a lot of things that are coming. I was just showing Lawrence a text. The phone never stops. And, I sat on the state executive committee for the state. We got this upcoming meeting Saturday. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a woozy doozy, as I will call it, in country boy terms. But there's a lot of things going on, and I've said this 1,000 times, and I'll give Uncle Richard Archie credit. He started saying, call them trans Republicans. And I quit using the word rhino, and I went to using trans Republicans.
You know the word I like the best is reprobate.
Well, I know you do.
The R in front of that name.
But there's few people out there, including some Republicans, that don't know what reprobate means. They got to go look it up. Okay.
Yeah, it means. I'll explain it to what that means so people know. Reprobate means when God gives you over to your own desires and delusions and your lusts of the world, and He no longer intercedes on your behalf.
Well, very true, and it's just like.
And most of these people, Chris, that are voting the way that they're voting, are voting for their own personal pleasure and for their own power.
Well, this is funny because I mentioned Romans chapter 1.
Right.
I encourage everybody to read all 32 verses, but I'm actually going to pick up with verse 28 and read to verse 32.
Okay.
I think it's worthy of everybody out there, and it gets your wheels to turning. Shake off some cobwebs. Romans chapter 1, starting with verse 28. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind.
Right.
To do those things which are not convenient.
Preach.
Verse 29. Being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignancy, whispers. Verse 30, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventor of evil things, disobedient to the parents. Verse 31, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, impeccable, unmerciful. In verse 32, he said it very well. Who, knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only to do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. So God clearly says, if you fit that mold in any shape, form, or fashion, you're worthy of death.
That's right.
So people...
But that's the second death he's talking about, not the first death.
Right.
That's the scary
death.
part. Yes.
But the thing about this, those 5 verses that I just read is actually what's going on in America today.
And in our politics.
And in our politics. So when Joe Biden wrote this transgender letter on March the 29th, Joe Biden has a reprobate mind.
He absolutely has a reprobate mind.
No ifs, no ands, no buts.
He could have done it. You know, this has been on his mind to have done this for a while, or somebody's mind.
Somebody's mind.
Okay.
I don't know if he really knows where he's at.
He may not. But why wouldn't you? Why couldn't you have done it the week before, or the week after? No, we're going to give Christians the middle finger. We're going to put our finger in your eye, and we're going to do it on the day that Christ rose. But you know what? Here's the thing, though. Christ rose for everybody. Christ went to the cross for everybody. Even these people that are
the ones with the reprobate mind.
That's correct.
He died for all.
And you know what? It just proves to me, and it shows me how quickly things are wrapping up in this world. I will tell you this, the people that are out there that are having these crazy ideas and they're doing wicked, evil things. Hear me out on this, Chris. And I hate saying this, but their time for honoring themselves will soon come to an end, because every knee will bow and every tongue will say who Jesus is. And it is going to happen sooner for some than most. Yes, I'm talking about the second coming of the Lord, but I'm also talking about we're never guaranteed tomorrow.
We're not guaranteed 5 minutes from now.
That's correct.
And I'm walking, living proof of that.
Amen. I am too.
I came close, not once, but twice.
I think that's one of the reasons me and you, get along so well, and why we think the same ways, because both of us could be in a pine box right now.
That's right.
Very easily, we both could have been in a pine box.
I always say this just jokingly. The good Lord wasn't ready for me, and the old devil wouldn't have me.
Right.
So, but it really makes you stop and think, about, I can tell you there is life hereafter.
Mm-hmm.
I tell everybody who does not think there's a movie out there that's called Heaven is for Real, and the story is about a little 4-year-old boy that died, and they were able to bring him back. It wasn't his time, but I experienced some of the same things that this child experienced, and it's frightening because I didn't know the movie existed till somebody said, "Hey, you need to watch this movie," after my accident. And so it's there, it's for real, and it's worthy of a watch. But let's move on to I want to get into House Bill 2689.
Okay.
And this bill is sponsored by none other than Clay Doggett in the House. And it's being carried by Kerry Roberts in the Senate. Hopefully, Kerry, you'll vote right on this bill. And it is a Second Amendment bill to try to stop special proceedings that create civil action against any person or government or entity that infringes upon a person's right to bear arms. So it introduces some civil action. If law enforcement and you have a constitutional right to bear arms and you're well within the means of the scope, you're not doing something crazy out there, that if law enforcement tries to take your gun away from you and you have not broken any law, you got some folks out there that think they're above the law, but you got civil actions. It's making some civil actions, which is great.
So would this also include businesses as well that's trying to keep you from bringing a gun in?
That'd be a good question for the sponsor, Mr. Doggett.
Yeah, because
I'm reading the caption text.
It says against any person or government.
And it says against any.
By the way, can we talk about something good here?
Yeah.
Here like a week or two ago, we actually got that House Joint Resolution passed that will go on the ballot in 2026.
Was that how HR House HJR 0038?
Yes.
Okay.
We actually are going to get that on the ballot.
Where we can vote on it. On our state constitution.
Not only in our state constitution, but it also kind of removes what some people would say were Jim Crow laws. And it's about the carrying of weapons.
Right.
And praise God on that.
That's right.
Thank you, Richard Archie.
Yeah, Richard was a big instrumental with TFA in West Tennessee. Him and John Harris out of Nashville, they were big in this bill. And people couldn't still believe it. In the state of Tennessee, we still had Jim Crow bill on the books.
That's right.
So the voters have a right at the ballot box to vote to remove this or to keep it on the books.
And it was actually a nonpartisan issue, by the way. I think did it pass the Senate 30-0?
I think it did.
It was. There were some Democrats that actually supported it.
Yeah, and the thing about it is Richard went up there, and Karen Kemper is the minority leader in the House on the Democrats' side, and she couldn't believe this. And he had a good talk with her, and she thanked him. And there's a lot of good if people would just stop and put their thinking cap on instead of not trying to work. You can work together. It's your willingness to work together. Everybody says we're so divided. I think if you sit down with each other, if we were to sit down with Karen Kemper in here, or somebody like G.A. Hardaway over in Memphis, Antonio Parkinson.
Antonio's a good guy.
If we could just sit down and talk to them, but they're so afraid to vote for things like, let's talk about abortion.
Right.
Some of these folks that have got a D behind their name are against abortion just like you and I.
But they won't speak out against it.
But they won't speak out because
they'll get kicked out.
They'll get kicked out. Look at John DeBerry.
Yeah.
So they're not. they've got good intentions. They're just afraid. But the thing about it is, you didn't get elected to be afraid. You got elected to do the godly and biblical and constitutional thing.
And I tell you this: when we got elected, even I don't care if you have a Republican or a Democrat name, to not go and represent your people the best way that you can represent them, and it's not based upon what that party platform says. It should state, and I'm going to piss a lot of people off here, but it should be what God says first and our Constitution second.
I agree with that.
And I'm going to tell you something. That child that's in that womb,
life begins at conception.
Yes, matter of fact, God actually says in Jeremiah, I knew you before you were formed in the womb.
In your mother's womb, that's right.
So does that baby not have constitutional rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness? Hey, I'm going to tell you something. That baby has his own heartbeat. That baby's blood is even different from its mom.
Own DNA.
Has its own DNA. It is totally different. So you can't say that that's my body. That's not your body. Your body was wonderfully made, and you're a woman, okay? We're not having birthing persons on this show. It is a woman. That woman is carrying that precious life in her stomach.
Right.
And her body is giving it nourishment and letting it grow safely. But that's it.
I was also going to mention, I think it's being heard on the House floor right now. Clay has got another great bill up there that's really great for law enforcement personnel that are retiring, that are participating in the Consolidated Retirement Act.
All right.
And that bill, trying to remember the number, is 2682 House bill. And what it's really doing is stopping where you had to wait 60 days. It reduces it to 30 days to start drawing benefits as if you served in law enforcement. So that's a great thing. That should pass overwhelmingly and shouldn't have any problems with that. But Clay does a lot of great things dealing with things of crime, law enforcement. Of course, Clay is a former sheriff's deputy in Giles County, also a former correctional officer. So he understands that, and he's done a lot of great things. I think Brent Cooper would give a shout out on this. I don't want to put words in Brent's mouth, but he's done a lot of things to help the DA offices as well.
Right.
And make things right.
Right.
And straighten up some of this mess.
Right. So you want to go down a little rabbit hole for a little bit?
Yeah, we got about 8 minutes.
Okay.
7.5 to be technical.
So we know we got the eclipses coming up.
Yes, sir.
And we discussed that and we went into it. And things just keep coming.
Matter of fact, that's a week from today.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It just keeps coming up more and more and more things that are happening. Have you heard of a company called CERN?
Yes. Okay.
So CERN was started up on actually September 29th, 1954. On of all days, the Jewish holiday, Feast of Trumpets. Now, for people that don't know who CERN is the one that's looking for the God particle. And it is and they actually, because of the chance of things going wrong, CERN is underneath the ground. And I can't remember how many hundreds of yards it's underneath the ground, just in case something goes wrong. But they are actually, for the first time in I want to say it's like 3 or 4 years, they're starting the Hadron Collider again to try to find the God particle. Do you know what day? I'll give you 3 guesses what day they're starting this back up again, and the first 2 don't count, Chris.
April the 8th.
April the 8th. Why April 8th? I do not know. Okay, so we can go down a long rabbit hole with CERN. That may be for another program. Here's the other thing. We have rockets that NASA is firing up.
3 of them.
3 of them. And they are actually calling this particular, what they're doing, they are calling it APEP. Okay, the acronym, and I forget exactly what the acronym stands for, but it's really what they're doing is they're sending these rockets up in order to study the eclipse. So again, this thing is coming on April the 8th. But here's the funny thing. Why did they actually chose APEP as the acronym? And APEP is actually the serpent god of Egypt. And they did it on purpose. And NASA even admits that this is the reason that they're doing. So it's the serpent god of Egypt. But you know what? Here's the funny thing about APEP. APEP is also a Greek god. And we know this Greek god as Apophis. Now, Apophis is the god of chaos. I mean, I kid you not that, all these things that they're doing it. Now, am I going to tell you something is absolutely devastating going to happen on April 8th? No, I'm not telling you that at all. But I am going to tell you this. We have, and if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it from a couple of weeks ago. We went over the eclipse and all the coincidences on the eclipse. But we have all these things happening. We have CERN firing up. Oh, by the way, we have a comet that is also going to be seen during the eclipse.
During the eclipse, that's correct.
That's called the Devil's Comet. Why we would call it the Devil's Comet, I don't know, but it is called the Devil's Comet. And this is a fun fact. Do you know the last time that we?
But you know what? Here's the funny.
Do you know the last time that we had a comet and an eclipse happen at the same time that's happening now?
It wasn't in 2017.
No, it was September the 11th of 1811.
Okay.
Now, December 17th of
Was
1811
the big earthquake.
Was the Madrid fault line earthquake. Now, again, I'm not telling you we're going to have earthquakes. I'm not telling you guys. But typically when we have been having solar eclipses, something has happened. Okay? When we had the solar eclipse of 2017, 4 days afterwards, this last one, we had the worst hurricane season in recorded history. I mean,
that was in 2017.
That was in 2017. That is correct. So, I will tell you this. Look at what's going on with the bridge right now. Have you seen all the things that are going on with the bridge?
Well, the bridge that got hit in Baltimore. But
that's right.
Over the weekend, we had one to get hit in the state of Oklahoma.
We have another bridge.
And then there was one, I think, hitting the country of Turkey as well. And that, overseas. But
yeah.
In the U.S., we had another one hit in Oklahoma. It was on I think a 4-lane road, wasn't an interstate.
Mm-hmm.
But the barge hit the bridge. It's crazy.
There's too many things to be coincidences, and I tell everybody that to me, there's no such thing as coincidences. Is God talking and we're not listening? Because I'm going to tell you something. I'm looking forward to April the 8th to see what probably won't happen. But it's going to be interesting to follow and see what winds up happening. There was a big controversy, with the blood moons.
Right.
That we had the tetrad, where you have 2 years where you have 4 blood moons all fall on Jewish holidays. And the other times that they had fallen on Jewish holidays during that time was 1967, the same month when Israel got Jerusalem as the state capital after fighting. Before that was 1948, when Israel became a nation. And people say, oh, nothing happened in 14 or 15. Oh, yes, it did. That was the first time that Israel had to fight Hamas. It was the first time was during that period of time. The other thing is that's when ISIS rose up.
They reared their ugly.
We had to start dealing with ISIS during the times of these blood moons. And there was 2 or 3 other things, and I just can't remember what they were. But things happen. That's what I'm trying to tell people on this April 8th thing. Things are going to happen.
Well, think about this last 30 seconds that we've got left. by this time next week, we will have had our solar eclipse.
That's right.
So we'll have a little bit to talk about what may happen, what did happen, what did not happen.
That's right.
But Lawrence, carry us out.
Well, I will tell everybody, thank you. Stay safe. God bless Tennessee. God bless our area. I always say God bless Lawrence County.
Right.
But it's our area.
And everybody keep your eye on the weather.
This is WDXE.
Right. Keep your eye on the weather. Stay safe.
And
know
W237
at the end of the day that the Lord
broadcast
loves you.
services of Prospect
Until next time.
Communications.
Yes, sir. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Today